Cade Cunningham and Simone Fontecchio shine in the Pistons win. We're going to recap that game, as well as talk about Fontecchio's impact and why he's the perfect complement to Cade.
Lane, skies a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves it.
Welcome back to Pistons Intellect. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. And before we get into today's show, if you're feeling so kind, as always, please hit that subscribe button and support the channel and the Pistons Intellect brand in any way possible. Appreciate all of it. Now, as I mentioned off the top, Pistons won again. They won again. They've now won 11 games. I think that's their third win since the All-Star break. They're 3-6 or 3-7 since the All-Star break. And look, once again, like I said after the Nets game, I'm not coming in here deluded thinking the Pistons are turning the entire ship around and on track to making the playoffs next season or that kind of thing. But it's always nice to get a win. It's always nice to win games, especially at home, just to once again keep rewarding the fans that continue to turn up. I think there was 18,000 there tonight. I actually checked out the official kind of standings, the official crowd numbers for each team on the ESPN.com, and the Pistons, they rank like 18th or 19th in the league. Now, considering they are will have been for much of the season the worst team in the league, I think that's pretty impressive. And I know the Pistons LCA is a bigger arena, but regardless, with the state of the season, I think, like I have the past few episodes, I just want to shout out the fans that continue to go and support this team because, yeah, there's moments tonight where the crowd were really into it. There's probably more into it in the Nets game, but maybe that's because that game was on a Friday or a Saturday night. But shout out to those that keep going. But on to the game. I think where I want to start tonight is so as I mentioned, the Pistons end up winning this game by 17 points, 114-97. And honestly, they had an excellent first quarter and a really good third quarter and a pretty good close to the fourth quarter. And I think where I want to start here is just kind of Simone Fontecchio and his impact on the game and how good he looked in that starting lineup. Sar Thompson didn't play tonight, I should say. He was ruled out with an illness. He exited last game against Dallas in the first half with an illness. So not a huge shock to see him miss a game tonight, only 2 days later. But Fontecchio was put into the starting lineup, and I think this is one of the lineups I've spoken about. Like, I think a lot of Pistons fans want to see Fontecchio replace Stu in the starting lineup. I'm not as hard pressed on Stu coming out of the starting lineup. For me, it's always been about Fontecchio should be starting, and it should be for one of either Asar or Isaiah Stewart, just for the end of this season, not long term, not in 2 seasons, but just for the rest of this season. I think Fontecchio, my whole thing has been like he needs to start, and I don't really care too much if it's in place of Asar or Stu. As long as Asar's still playing 25 minutes plus off the bench, doesn't bother me too much. So tonight, Fontecchio gets the start. He plays 37 minutes, 17 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, plus 17, 3 triples, 7-11 from the field. Just like, and as you can see in the title of the video, like, he's the perfect match. He's the perfect role player. He's the perfect complement to Cade Cunningham, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, but just looks right. The on-court, like they were going against the Hornets, who just the other night lost to the Wizards, who were without a couple of key players tonight. But regardless, like, just the shooting he brings, the off-ball movement he brings, the cutting, the rebounding, the size on the perimeter defensively. And then, like, I've been kind of impressed. Like, I've spoken about his ability to drive to the rim and either get to the free throw line or just use his sort of bigger frame to move guys and finish at the rim. But also been impressed with his passing here and now. I didn't expect that to be part of his game. Now, he's obviously not a guy that's going to create a heap off the dribble and draw defenders in and, make passes like in the pick and roll, that kind of thing. But, 3 assists tonight, that's valuable for a guy who you look at just for scoring mainly. So, awesome game from him. And, I think obviously his shooting and spacing is just aligns perfectly with Cade, but it also aligns perfectly with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duran to a bit of a lesser extent. And just his off-ball movement, like I love it so much. Like because the ball when Cade's on the court, I would like to see this change a little bit next season, but with the way Cade's playing recently, like the ball is in his hands pretty much the entire time he's on the floor. And I think it's so important to have players that want to cut and make space. And even if they're not cutting to the rim and receiving the ball, they're cutting to the rim and relocating on the 3-point line, just keeping the defense guessing and keeping him accountable. And I think tonight against a team like the Hornets, that stuff pays off because they're a young team like the Pistons who are struggling, and you can really expose those gaps. And a veteran guy like Fontecchio alongside Cade, who's going to, the Hornets were trapping Cade pretty much from after the first quarter onwards. They were double teaming him in pick and roll. They were sending a second guy all the time, and he's just able to pick apart defenses. Especially inexperienced teams like the Hornets, and guys like Fontecchio benefit a heap. So, and I think just to round out like the Fontecchio and Cade sort of partnership, the Pistons this season, if you go on NBA.com and look at kind of the lineup data, I've got it filtered to 2-player combinations. The Pistons have had probably 20 odd lineups of 2 guys who've played 200 minutes or more together. Fontecchio and Cade are the best ranked 2-man duo on the team. So when those 2 are on the court together, no matter who the other 3 players are with them, they are 2 points plus 2 net rating, which, as I say all the time when I read out these net ratings and that lineup data, to be in a positive with the state of this team and their win-loss record is, that says a lot. The top-rated 2-man lineup or 2-man combo is Stu and Alec Burks, but obviously Alec Burks is gone. So Fontecchio and Cade have played 260 minutes together in 13 games. And as I just said, they have a +2 net rating, highest active 2-man duo on the team. And those 2 should be playing as many minutes together as possible. They've got great size. They're both 6'7", 6'8". Both can defend when locked in. Fontecchio's obviously got more energy to defend. Both have been excellent shooters. Like, Fontecchio's never going to be a star, but those 2 together, that is an awesome foundation at the guard position and at the 3 or 4 position. So I can't get enough of Fontecchio. I could honestly keep talking about him for another 10 minutes because he's just like, if you think back to November, December, when we were in the darkest times of this season, we were crying out for some form of 3 or 4 that could just defend a little bit and score at the other end. And Troy Weaver has once again found himself in the spotlight in the past 48 hours for probably the wrong reasons. But, he deserves a lot of criticism this season, and I think he's copped it a lot. But that trade is looking really good. So, I think that's all I've got on Fontecchio. I'd love to hear your guys' comments comments below. I feel like he's kind of just the perfect kind of Piston role player. He's a perfect kind of role player for any team, really. But I feel like I've noticed online Pistons fans really getting around him, and he's just kind of a no-nonsense guy who just seems to love to hoop and, love having on the team. So I think talking about Fontecchio and Cade kind of ties into my next talking point. And obviously here it says Cade leads the Pistons in the win. And where I want to kind of expand upon with this is Cade's game tonight, he has 22 points, 6 boards, 8 assists. In the context of kind of his last 10 games and the way he's been playing, if you just look at the box score, it probably doesn't jump out as a huge Cade game. I actually had someone comment on the Instagram post I put out with the final score and that saying Cade's like sucked tonight or something, but I would assume that person didn't watch excuse me, didn't watch the game because he came out 12 points in the first quarter, was aggressive, hit a 3, got to the line for an M1 on a crazy floater, had an awesome drive and transition where he kind of crossed over his man, then did this like, it's sort of similar in a way to what Asar Thompson did last time. It was like this rip through on the drive and he was able to finish a tough layup. He came out and was aggressive from the jump, 12 early points. And then, as I said, kind of in the second and third quarter, didn't do a lot of scoring, more facilitating because the Hornets were trapping him, sending 2 to the ball whenever he had it. Then the final quarter, an area probably this season where Cade, I'm not going to say has been a disappointment, but like doesn't feel like for much of the season he's taken advantage of moments kind of down the stretch in the clutch to take over games like he did as a rookie. This season, it feels like he's sometimes gone a bit missing in the clutch, but tonight it won't come up as clutch minutes, but the Hornets definitely made a run in that fourth quarter, and it was kind of Cade who settled it down. He got to the rim on a couple of drives and then hit one of those patented pull-up middies to kind of just constantly keep the Pistons up by like 6, then 8, then 10 after the Hornets kind of gave one final push. And he found Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren scored 20 points. Felt like Cade assisted him on every single one of his field goals just with lobs or passes, drawing in the defense. And just, I think that's, I say this a lot, but I feel like that's just a very pedestrian Cade Cunningham game where he's going to shoot around high 40% to 50%. And just kind of dictate the pace of the entire game, especially against teams like the Hornets, who I must admit, like they really love watching Brandon Miller. They obviously have some young talent, but they were without Mark Williams tonight, LaMelo Ball. Nick Richards is a serviceable big, but by no means a great defensive big. And, Cade just took advantage of his opponent, and I feel like he did what he had to do, and Pistons got the win off the back of him closing the game strong. And he's now been 10 games since the All-Star break. Pistons are 3-7 in those games, so the record's still, it's not very good, but I thought they've been more competitive. They obviously have that. They had that horrible loss to the Magic, and probably the first game back against the Pacers was a big letdown as well. Although Cade played well in that game, but they've been in more games. They've beaten the Nets, the Bulls, and obviously the Hornets today. So still teams that are not around them in the standings are a little bit higher. But Cade, since he also breaks, averaging now 25 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 48% from the field and 44% from 3. Getting to the line pretty much 5 times a game and shooting it at 91%. So, I mean, I must admit, what I am seeing in these past 10 games and what we saw in that December stretch, he is exceeding where I thought he would be as a scorer this season. Now, I know he's still only hovering probably around 22 and a half, maybe 23 points now, but what I am seeing right now, I can't say I expected him to put together kind of a 10-game stretch like he has, where he's had like, I think now he's, there's a stat the other night, he's like 3rd in the league for 30-point games since the All-Star break. Like, I didn't expect this early to see Cade Cunningham kind of putting up these monster scoring nights on a consistent basis. Now, I know he didn't tonight, but I don't think I expected that. I didn't expect the pull-up 3 to be looking how good it has probably this season. I expected the catch and shoot to come around, but I maybe thought the pull-up three might be, another season away. That's another summer away. But pull-up three, the step back three, honestly, it's kind of he's exceeding where I thought he'd be at as a scorer, and couldn't be happier. I always backed the playmaking. I always knew he would get assists, but yeah, even on drives now, he just looks so in control. Has a really nice blend of pace and using his strength and using some finesse at times, but also trying bully ball. I feel like last season, although he only played like 12 games, there was a lot of bully ball type stuff, floaters, mid-rangers. Now I feel like he still has all that, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he's gotten his handle and finishing. He's got more craft now. I feel much more confident when he's taking shots around the rim. So just credit to him. He is, of the core four prospects the Pistons have, he is far and away the guy, and he's looking like that number one pick we all hoped for. So once again, as always, I'm absolutely loving seeing this play, and I really hope the Pistons can take some scalps here in the end of the season. I believe they got another couple of games against the Celtics, and they're going to come up against a few good teams. And even if those teams are resting one of their stars or that, I still think I really want to see the Pistons now. I'm enjoying these wins. Don't get me wrong; it's been a long season, but I would love to see Cade really lead this team to a big time win over a playoff or Eastern Conference type level team like the 76ers if Embiid comes back, or Celtics or Bucks. Just beat one of these teams, and I'll be feeling really good heading into the off season. Just with Cade as that guy, we'll be feeling awesome. So let me know how you're feeling about Cade. Turnovers I think have been decent. I can't really fault the way he's been playing. I think his energy's been great. Defense, probably the thing that lets him down here and there. But I think that's definitely something that's an off-season thing. That's coming to next season refreshed, ready to win games on a consistent basis, and really putting emphasis on defense. I think to close out the season, it's just defense comes off with winning games, but I think just continue this offensive stretch you have going, continue to build chemistry with Jaden Ivey. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on Cade below. And his kind of post All-Star break stretch. Now, final thing I want to touch on. The only reason this wasn't higher in the talking points, the Pistons big men dominating tonight, and James Wise specifically, the only reason this wasn't higher is because, as I kind of said, this Hornets team was kind of set up for Jalen Duren and James Wiseman to feast upon. Nick Richards was their only big. They're playing Grant Williams at the 5 at times, even maybe Miles Bridges at one point, and they just have no big men, no vertical kind of presence. Like I said, Nick Richards, serviceable backup big, but can't really defend the pick and roll too well because he's not very athletic. And credit to Wise and JD, they absolutely dominated. So JD had 20 points, 10 boards, 8 of 10 field goals. As I said, was just rolling to the rim at will, getting offensive rebounds. Felt like he dunked absolutely everything. And then James Wiseman, similar story, 10 points, 9 boards, a block in only 18 minutes. His third consecutive really strong game. I think it'll be actually in the community notes on YouTube and it'll be on my Twitter, but he's averaging something like 12 points, 7 boards, a block, and he's a positive net rating in his past 3 games, and super impressive. The rebounding is huge. He's always had that finesse around the basket and been able to score when he gets opportunities. But the rebounding, I feel like he's been so physical. And I spoke about this when I was at the Summer League in Las Vegas. I was doing recap videos for the Detroit Bad Boys. And the one thing I was looking for with Wise, just all the way back in Summer League in July, was him just using his 7'1" frame and being dominant and, exerting his kind of willpower against lesser competition. And he did that tonight. Had a huge poster dunk on Nick Richards. Poor Nick Richards tonight. Just, yeah, he was up against it, but Wise, he had like this. It's like he drove left, hop step to like the right, and then just dunked it with one hand, almost like a bit of a tomahawk on Nick Richards. And it was just a full display of everything James Wiseman can do in one play. Like he had the handle, the drive, and then just to show off the finesse and footwork for a guy that high, then to be able to dunk like that, like that's like the full potential, and that's like why he's still getting minutes. And I'm not at the stage where I'm going to do this big apology for Wise. I don't think anyone gives a shit about that, to be honest. Like sometimes I think we as content creators can come on here and apologize for something we've said, and ultimately no one cares too much. But I'm just happy for Wise. I have probably been against his minutes at times, but he's rewarding Monty Williams now recently for his faith in him. And I'm just happy to see that for Wiseman, regardless of what I've said about the lineups this season. Wiseman's past 3 games definitely deserves some love. And I hope he continues to play like this, because if he can close the season in this kind of form, that is a tough decision this summer, because and that's a good, tough decision to have. How much do you pay Wiseman? Do you bring him back? Do you trade him? Is another team now interested in him? Either way, it's good for the Pistons and Wiseman if he continues to play like this, because it creates more opportunities for Wise, more money for him, and then likewise for the Pistons if they're able to bring him back and he can continue to play like this. I thought it was really cool. The Hornets broadcast, I can't remember one of their sideline reporter, I can't remember her name, but they actually did a little segment on Wiseman and kind of his role on the team. And she spoke about how Monty, or one of the coaches, said Wiseman's one of our best drop defenders in the pick and roll in terms of positioning, in terms of his activity. And I thought that was awesome praise. And something to definitely think about, especially when we talk about Jalen Duren's defense. Like James Wiseman, I think gets a lot of heat for his defense, but I think the coaching staff sees something in him and he's rewarding them 100% right now. And also just the last final thing, Taj Gibson and Wiseman seem to have a really cool thing going. Taj has only been here for like a week, I think, but those two are smiling on the bench. Taj, like after that dunk, like getting around him, like Taj Gibson's energy has just been awesome to see on the bench. So shout out to him for bringing the energy and making sure these young guys keep their heads up, because it's helping. I'm not going to say it's the only reason Wiseman's playing well. That would be incredibly disrespectful to Wise, but I think just having a vet there in his corner, cheering him on, supporting him is, it all adds up. So I didn't really touch on JD. I think, 20 points, 10 boards. He just loves playing the Hornets. I'm still forever grateful the Pistons and Hornets made that trade and the Pistons were able to get Jalen Duren, because, the Hornets commentators couldn't stop talking about how much of a talent JD is. And I think sometimes I can get caught up in focusing on what he can't do on the defensive end, which is probably a bit unfair. But, when you hear other teams talk about Jalen Duren, they're enamored by the size, the physicality, and then all of that just at his young age of 20. It's a pretty remarkable combination and something I probably should work on being more positive and grateful about. So shout out to JD as well. I think that'll do it for today's show. We'll be back for the next game. I really need to get the schedule up in front of me, but I'll be back to recap the Pistons' next game. As usual, drop a comment below. Let me know if you're at the game. I've really enjoyed people commenting and letting me know they're at the games. For some reason, I love it. Maybe it's because I can't wait to actually get to a game at some point in the near future. But, drop your Pistons thoughts below. But until the next episode, as always, go Pistons.